Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're hearing me from. It's your sister in Christ, Sister Chilobia. Today in the studio, we are hosting Evangelist Mr. Siazilo. Okay, so today we have an interesting topic. We are actually going to dive into the series of looking at Daniel. And today, as it stands, we're talking about Daniel chapter 1. Daniel chapter 1 is a very interesting topic. It talks about these Hebrew brothers who had courage, full of life, and they could stand amidst strong maybe opposition because of the strong belief they had and trust they had in their God. So we are going to hear more as our brother, our evangelist, is going to stipulate this chapter, which is chapter 1 of Daniel, more. So, good evening, my brother.
Good evening, sister. How are you? And happy Sabbath to those that are watching us today. At least it's a blessed Sabbath. And I encourage you also to be with us as we dive into the book of Daniel chapter 1. And I believe this will not be the end. I'm sure we'll still have time to go and discuss chapter 2, chapter 3,
Exactly.
until we exhaust the book of Daniel.
Yeah. Okay, so to start with, give us an overview, an oversight of what Daniel chapter 1 is really about before I go into my interesting questions.
Exactly. When you're talking about the book of Daniel, this is one of the interesting book in the Bible. Yeah, I always want to remind our listeners that the Bible is the most intelligent book that have ever existed.
Yeah.
And the Bible always needs interpretation. But the book of Daniel, more especially the first 6 chapters, it's a direct interpretation. It doesn't need any. It's a prophetic book, but definitely has no prophetic insight in it.
And very interesting.
And
stories.
very interesting. You find it, king dreams and everything. So in chapter 1 here we find the captured nation of Israel, the Hebrew brothers. They found themselves in a captured situation. You know, as the Babylonian kingdom was expanding, as it was going eastward around 605 BC, it reached a point where it also captured Jerusalem, which was the holy seat for the Jews. So at that particular point now we find this Nebuchadnezzar the king expanding his territory, and he ended up also capturing the children of Israel, and they found themselves in there. Among the people that were captured, we find these 4 Hebrew brothers, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah.
Yeah, and those were their original names.
Yes, those were original names.
Okay.
Yes, even though so unfortunate that day, the names that were given, they are now dominating, unlike those original names.
Okay,
Yes.
beautiful. That's a beautiful insight, introduction that he has given to us to open up our minds to know what you're talking about. By the way, Babylon now, is it still Babylon? Or this country, whether it's whatever it is still existing? What name is it current as?
Yeah, when you look at the current geographical location of this Babylonian kingdom, we can say today being Iraq.
Iraq?
Yes, that is where Babylon or its headquarters were.
Okay.
That time.
Okay,
Yes.
that's nice. I wanted just to hear that, to know what that is. Okay, so today I have a few questions that are going to help us understand Daniel chapter 1.
Okay.
So the first question on my list goes like, what historical circumstances led to the events described in Daniel chapter 1?
Okay.
What do you know about the history, the historical circumstances that were actually surrounding this the coming about of Daniel chapter 1?
Okay, yeah. Daniel chapter 1 actually, it's more centered on the expansion of the kingdom of Babylon. So the Babylonian kingdom continued expanding. As it was expanding now, this is where we find the story of the exile of these children of Israel. Yes. So the kingdom of Babylon, God actually allowed the Babylonian kings to punish the Israelites, because the children of Israel kept on disobeying God from time and from over and over, and the Lord now used the neighboring nations to punish them so that maybe they can
learn something.
They can learn something. I always, actually, it is so important, my sister, to mention that sometimes as we are praying, we need to also pray for our enemies, because sometimes God can use our enemies to discipline us or to bring us back in line. So it is important to our listeners that as we are praying, it is important that we do remember our enemies in our prayers.
We pray for them in a good way.
Yes, we pray for them in a good way, so that when God uses them to deal with us, they should have mercy. She should have mercy. She should be lenient. Yeah, good.
Okay, so I think that's clear. We've gotten something from there. So apart from the historical circumstances that you've just highlighted, what can we talk about? In short, why were Daniel and other young men specifically selected for training in Babylon? Why was Daniel and the other young men? Why them? Why were they selected? Why was it them to be trained in Babylon?
It is actually important that in each nation, or even as we are growing today's time, we surround ourselves with people that are intelligent, people that are wise, people that are healthy, of noble character. So when this king, the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar, then he captured the children of Israel, the first instruction that he gave to his people was to go and identify intelligent men among the children of Israel. So those people who were considered intelligent then, that's how they identified these Hebrew brothers. So among the Daniel and his companion, these were people who had the royal background. They were of the royal kingship. They were not just ordinary men. So he first wanted to get people who are closer to the kingship so that he can use them, and they also identified intelligent men.
And of course, when you want some people to use for anything, you would want those of high caliber.
Yes, of high caliber, and they were intelligent, they were healthy, they were noblemen, and they were trustworthy. So that's the reason why they were picked.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, was it just them?
No. There were other people that were also considered intelligent and wise on top of Daniel, but these were exceptional.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's why we are reading about them.
Yeah, that's why we are reading about them. Okay. They were exceptional.
Okay, so I think that's clear. Clear. I've gotten the reason why they were chosen. Okay, the third one, to dive into the third one without wasting much of our time, is what was the significance of changing the names of Daniel and his friends? So after they were captured, even in your introduction, I heard you saying you mentioned their original names.
Yeah, they were original names.
So why were the names had to be changed?
Yeah. After these 4 men were identified, the king wanted to use them. Whenever you want to use someone, you need to have authority over them, and the king had to change their names. Yes, so that he can have control over them. Remember, during colonial period in Africa or in Zambia, our names were changed. Our local names were never considered Christian names until the colonial masters, they had to change our names because they wanted to control over us. So always, when someone wants to control you, there is always a change of names. Actually, these were not the first people. It's not only the Babylonian people who could change the names. Even in our society, we find when you marry someone, the wife has to change the name to start bearing the name of the husband, because the husband has to control. Yes. So over dominion. Even God also changes names. You remember
are those Christian names that we hear when someone gets baptized, that they give you a new name? I think that is not done in my faith now.
Yeah, there are others, yes, quite okay. When they baptize someone, they would give them a new names. But it's some form of just a belief, but that has nothing to do with salvation. But I wanted to touch a point where God also changes names. Even when we'll be saved, we'll be given new names. I wanted to give an example of Abraham. You see, before he was called Abraham, he was Abram. So God changed him from Abram to Abraham. Sarai became Sarah. Yes, and many others. We find Saul being poor.
Yes.
So many other people. So even the people of the world, like the Babylonians, they also had to change these 4 Hebrew brothers. Daniel, he became Belteshazzar, and then these common names that we know, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Yes.
Okay, so going down Daniel chapter 1, there's a point where these Hebrew brothers were captured and they were offered food and all that, but Daniel and their friends stood out and refused to eat the food for the king and his wine. Why was it so? Why did they refuse?
Yeah, actually, it is very interesting when you are reading the book of Daniel chapter 1, more especially when you come to verse number 8, where it says, and Daniel purposed in his heart that we are not going to defile ourselves defiling ourselves into the food that was served to idols.
Okay.
Yeah, so this was not the food that these Hebrew brothers were used to eat. It was a new, when you are changed, when you go into a new environment, a lot of things changes. Geographical location changes, the type of food changes, the environment changes. So now the king he changed their names. He needed also to change their diet. Remember, we become we become what we eat.
Yes.
So he also wanted to remember their names, like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These were names that were related to, or which were associated with the gods in Babylon. So now they were to be fed of some certain foods that were offered to idols. So now, in that case, Daniel understood the concept, because this is how they lived from their childhood, that they could not eat something that was offered to idols. As a result, they had to choose vegetarianism. Yes.
Okay. Beautiful. No, they were wise. Sometimes if only we could inculcate these values in our children, what we teach them, they grow up with them, such that no matter the circumstance, no matter the pressure they're faced into, they are able to succumb and to stand on their faith.
Yeah, and in addition to that, you realize, Daniel and his companion, they wanted to show dependence on God, because by eating what the king was offering them, it would have showed that they were dependent on the king's diet, or dependence on the king. But Daniel wanted to show that their dependence was only upon God.
Okay. Beautiful lesson going on. I hope if there are any people that are joining us in the middle, we are actually talking about Daniel chapter 1, and there are a few questions that are helping us to dive into it depth. This is just the beginning. We are going to have a series of these chapters until further notice. So let me conclude by asking this last question, which is what role did God play in the success of Daniel and his companions?
Yeah, these 4 Hebrew brothers, they never departed from the principles of God. So they remained firm in whatever they were doing. They realized who God was. They never wanted to defile themselves on the things that they found on the new environment. Sometimes when you are taken into a new environment, you want to excel or explore. Yes, you want to reach all corners, but these, they excelled in God. As a result, because they remained to the principles that God had instructed, that God had to give them wisdom. So they remained knowledgeable in everything. God gave them knowledge and the understanding, and He gave them insights, and we'll understand now later on as we go into chapter 2, chapter 3, we're going forward. God even gave them the wisdom and understanding to understand the things, such that they were even able to interpret the dreams of the king.
The dream that they did not.
And so interesting, you realize, if I'm to be a bit dramatical, because when the king had to capture these, he had to put them into a form of a training, because he trained them. They were to be trained. Yes, there was some training. Or I can say maybe he had to put them into the University of Babylon. Then, and now on the day of examination, they were discovered that these 4 Hebrew brothers were 10 times wiser than the rest of the people. Yes. So this is actually now answer the prior question that you asked me about, were they the only ones? No, because when they were examined, they were 10 times better than the rest. Yes, they were not only the 4 the only 4, but there were also other people who were put in that court of the king.
No, that was wise of them.
Yes.
And that's why we are learning about them. We need to draw some lessons from this. It's actually a living lesson that keeps on going. Daniel is a very good book that we should keep on reading because we get new lessons every time we read on it.
For sure. So we realize to say these 4 Hebrew brothers, they showed dependence on God. God always kept them. God always dwelt with them. He did a lot of things with them because of being trusting in God. So even ourselves today, it is still a call for us that we should not depart from the principles of God. Let us remain focused and put all our dependence on God, because He's the one that who has our life. He's the one who allows us to be in such situations. Remember now, God allowed these people to be in exile or in captive for Him to perform some miracles, which happened in Babylon, to show how great He is. So even in our time, sometimes God can allow us to be in some certain problem for a miracle to happen. Yes, a miracle can never happen in our comfort zone. So we need to be in a certain situation. Then God now will come in and perform a miracle. So I encourage everyone that do not denounce God in whatever situation that you are in. God is always God. God will always be there for us. So let us remain prayerful and always thankful to what God has done to our lives.
No, beautiful. Thank you so much. It was a beautiful start with you. I hope to see you more often.
We thank God. God bless you.